Coming up on Tech Thing, it's a Big Patch Tuesday. Shannon versus the Yoga 900, our favorite Raspberry Pi distros, $200 laptops. Let's talk Chromebook versus Windows 10. All that and more coming up on Tech Thing. If you get something useful out of this episode of Tech Thing, please consider contributing to the show at patreon.com/techthing. We're brought to you by viewers just like you. Thank you so much.
I'm Shannon Morse.
And I'm Patrick Norton.
And this is Tech Thing, where we make technology behave.
At least on the good days.
Is today a good day?
Today is the day after Patch Tuesday. Perhaps the mother of all Patch Tuesdays.
Patch Tuesday is a thing that Windows has done for like ever. I can't believe they're still doing that.
Well,
I guess they kind of need it.
Yeah, okay, so check this out. Great article on Krebs on security, covered a whole bunch of other places. Update Windows and Flash if you're still running it outside of Chrome and the Edge browser. More than 70 security updates for each were released by Microsoft and Adobe yesterday on Patch Tuesday. Krebs says 78 security flaws in Flash are patched.
78.
78.
78. So this is why I pretty much completely uninstalled Flash from my computers.
Yeah.
I don't miss it. Like after I uninstalled it, there's a few things that I can't watch online, but then I just get angry at the website instead, and I go, "Why are you still using Flash?"
Well, yeah, it's kind of it's built into Chrome, and you can manually disable it in Chrome or leave it there. It's relatively secure inside of there. It shows up inside of the Edge browser, but yeah, I no longer install Flash in my machines.
Good.
If I can,
Good for you.
If I need it,
join us.
Oh, I've been there for a long time. I've been there. There's no joining. I am in that lifeboat.
Awesome.
I just need to get a lot of other people in that lifeboat and to turn on Windows updates and to actually update their antivirus. I'm sure you have a family member just like that.
Yeah, that's what I did over Thanksgiving. So we got some tweets.
Yes. This is a good one, actually. You should read this one because this was the start of an adventure for me.
So he said, at Patrick Norton, and this is from Philip, he said, entry-level laptops for young school-age kid. Will a Chromebook suffice? I need two, so price matters. That's a really good question.
It's a great question, and we got a pair of $200 laptops in from Lenovo, one running Windows 10 and one running the Chrome OS.
Ooh. But before Patrick geeks out on them, let's go ahead and scroll down to a couple of other tweets in that thread. The first one's from Aaron Ramirez, who says, Windows 10, keeping with standardization as with most schools, utilize Microsoft Eco, OneDrive, etc. And secondly, DVR says, I have two Chromebooks for 14 and 10-year-olds. They do all homework on it. More than sufficient. So we're seeing a theme here, right?
Yeah.
Except I want to mention too that I know I'm kind of old, but with my schools, they all standardized with Macs up through high school. So not very long ago, but still kind of long ago.
Yeah. Well, okay. So first of all, that I think is probably the big thing right there is before you commit to a college or a high school or an elementary school PC, find out if there's some particular ecosystem, to borrow one from Aaron there, that your school is required to operate in.
Yeah.
It's going to stink to buy a $200 computer that won't, or a $1,000 computer that won't actually run the software that your school district has decided is necessary for your child.
Absolutely.
Which brings us to Major Geeks, who said, will you actually answer any questions?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yes, I will.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's kind of crazy. I spent a big chunk of last week using Windows 10 Home on a Lenovo IdeaPad 100S, which is this one right here, and the Chrome OS on the Lenovo 100S Chromebook.
Wow.
I like them.
Really? Both of them?
I do, actually. These are not smoking top-of-the-line Skylake-powered gaming beasts.
I wouldn't expect them to be.
No, not for $200, but they're pretty damn good for basic computers. They are both running 2 gigabytes of RAM. They have 11.6-inch 1366 by 768 screens. No touch screens here. Intel HD graphics, Bluetooth 4.0.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, actually, they're pretty well equipped.
And we also got a message from @RoughRazor on Twitter, and he asked us, does the Windows 10 machine have 2 gigs of RAM and a spitting Rust hard drive?
At that price point, you might think it has a traditional, well, I mean, look, how do you build a sub $200 laptop? It's very similar to building a sub $100 tablet. You save a lot of money on the screen, you pick a modest CPU, you add a little bit of RAM and storage, and you are good to go. So the IdeaPad 100S running Windows 10 Home packs an Intel Atom Z37 35F, like I mentioned, 2 gigabytes of RAM, a 32 gigabyte eMMC. It's got an HDMI port, 2 USB 2.0 ports, micro SD, a headset jack. They're claiming up to 8 hours of browsing at 150 nits, so that's probably with the screen turned down a little bit.
Yeah.
Weighs 2.2 pounds, costs $199.99, and is available in blue, red, silver, white, and there are stereo speakers with Dolby Advanced Audio.
Okay.
I'd rather use headphones, but I'm a headphone kind of guy.
Yeah.
This is the 2.6-pound Lenovo 100S Chromebook, Intel N2840, again 2 gigs of RAM, a 16 gigabyte SSD, HDMI, 1 USB 3.0 port, 1 USB 2.0 port, an SD card slot, a headset jack, and also claims up to 8 hours of battery life for $199.99.
Same price. Okay.
Black only, but for $229.99 you can get 4 gigabytes of RAM.
Ooh.
Which is a big bump.
That's the
from
one I
2
would go for.
gigabytes. Yeah, it's pretty tempting. Notice SSDs, not old school rotating hard drives in either one of them, Rephrasor. And it's kind of interesting. When you go into CPU Boss, it's funny because they're two very different CPUs in a couple of different ways. The Intel Celeron, the N2840 in the Chromebook specs out at 2.1 gigahertz. The Atom in the Windows machine is 1.33 gigahertz.
Wow.
They turbo up to 2.58 gigahertz and 1.83 gigahertz respectively. So when you start scrolling down to the benchmarks, no big surprise. The Celeron is outperforming the Atom in the Windows notebook in single core tasks, but the Atom in the Windows laptop has 4 cores, which helps out a lot on multi-core tests, so it beats out the dual-core Celeron. So it's kind of back and forth.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Okay, so it sounds like the specs are pretty decent for that price range, but how did it actually feel for you in the real world?
Yeah, so that was a good question from Matthew Larson. He's like, will it blend? Ha ha ha. How does Office and Graphics work platform? Or graphics work perform? I don't want to edit video or photos on either one of these machines.
I wouldn't even try.
That's the thing though, all right? I've got a fairly badass Core i5 laptop, 8 gigabytes of RAM, an extremely badass Skylake desktop with 16 gigabytes of RAM. And that said, you can actually edit video or photos on either one. It's a real process on a Chromebook. On a Chromebook, you pretty much upload your video to a third-party machine. You edit using proxies online. And on a Windows machine, you can run a video editing program locally, but video editing with 2 gigabytes of RAM on Windows is a kind of 1998 kind of thing.
Yeah.
But beyond crazy video and photo editing, both of these computers are incredibly useful. Also, I got to give a shout out to Tinkercad, Autodesk's online 3D design and modeling tool. Very cool, runs inside of a browser.
And we also got a message on Twitter from Brian P. Naja, who asked, how good are the trackpads? Do they have multi-touch? That's a good question, too.
It's a really good question. Props to Lenovo putting decent keyboards on both of them. The builds are really sturdy. Plasticky, yes, but sturdy. I like the trackpad on the Chromebook better. It is multi-touch, and the buttons are integrated into it. It's clicky. The Windows machine has separate buttons, which I don't like as much, but that's pretty trivial.
Yeah, I think that's more like opinion.
Yeah, I think the trackpad on the Chromebook is more advanced. I would not be surprised if sometime next year the $200 Windows laptop got a similar touchpad. He's kind of brought us to Llama Dom. He's like, which offers more value for what you pay, and what variety tasks can each fulfill?
That's a good question.
They can pretty much do just about any basic computing task. The Windows machine has advantages in that, it's got all the Windows apps. A lot of them won't run very well on 2 gigabytes of RAM. Obviously, you're not doing any 3D gaming, but the Chromebook has advantages too. Tom Terrific was like, is a Chromebook more secure, viruses, etc., than Windows 10? A Chromebook is essentially a custom Linux distribution with a walled gardenish app environment that reinstalls fresh when you reboot. Versus, did we mention earlier in the show, 70s Windows security updates yesterday? Yo. The biggest thing for me on either laptop was getting used to not being a desktop pack rat.
Yeah.
For somebody that lives in Google Docs and Sheets and various online tools, I like to save stuff locally. It's a habit. You can do that with these. You just can't do a lot of it without adding an SD card or a thumb drive, and you're probably better off concentrating on doing your work online, which is obviously the big focus of a Chromebook. Chrome operating system. It's built around a web browser. It's constantly connected. Speaking of which, you can work offline in a Chromebook. Some apps will do so better than others. Some apps won't do so at all, but I think more apps than you think will actually work without an internet connection. That said, if you don't have lots of internet, a Chromebook is kind of silly.
Yeah.
Like Shannon said before, I think the biggest consideration is what the school district actually requires you to do. That is a big deal.
Absolutely. Yeah. And one last question from Senior Vito 9. He asked, can I run Minecraft on a Chromebook?
Okay, so Minecraft is essentially Java.
Yep.
There is no version of Minecraft for the Chromebook. However, should you want to encourage a hackery attitude in your young person that you are handing a Chromebook, you could teach them how to dual boot Linux. You could teach them how to remote access. You could teach them to play around with the Pocket Edition using the Arc tool that allows you to run Android apps inside of the Chrome operating system. But if your child lives and dies by Minecraft and you don't want to deal with the opportunity of teaching them how to install a Linux kernel and dual boot on the Chrome laptop, I would probably say that would be a good reason for going with the Windows machine.
So if you had to personally keep one, which one would you go with and use every day?
You know, it's a tough call. Okay, it's a tough call. It's a tough call. I would probably lean towards Windows because so much of my life is already running on Windows. And you know, there's it's a little bit easier. I think the Scratch running on Windows works a little bit better than Scratch running on the Chrome OS.
Yeah.
Feel free to argue with me if you want, you know, at TechThing or at Patrick Norton. But I would be leaning towards Windows because so much of my life is already running on Windows and or Mac OS.
I understand that.
And having a third ecosystem to support is like, you know, it's funny. I mean, like Netflix, fine. Spotify, fine. All of the Google, you know, online tools running really fine. Video editing, a little fraught, but then again, video editing on Windows with 2 gigabytes of RAM, it's not what you're buying this for. But you know,
Cool.
if you want somebody to travel with and do your banking and do remote access and play around with stuff, either one of these are going to do fine.
Cool, really cool. So we don't necessarily have to buy a $1,000 laptop. Good to know.
Well, for what we do, we probably need to buy a $1,000 laptop.
Yeah, probably.
Or we'll have to come back to the desktop machines more often.
I wonder what Darren uses.
Darren.
Thank you guys. Now, of course, you guys know I am a huge fan of those little netbooks and such, which is why I use the Sharp iQ 8400. It's got 256 kilobytes. It's an electronic organizer they use to edit all of the episodes of Hack 5. Doesn't run Kali Linux that well, but you know, it'll suffice. Now, if you are interested in learning all about software-defined radio, check out the series that we've been doing on Hack 5. It's amazing. Shannon and I are delving into all the nuts and bolts of what makes radio work and how to hack devices. And this week, we're getting into ways that you can share software-defined radios with other people on the internet. It's really fantastic. Check it out, hak5.org.
3 questions answered, 3 reviews, 3 picks, all in 3 minutes. This week's Rapid Fire Roundup is inspired by Schultzy, who wrote ask@techthing.com because of your recent show featuring the Raspberry Pi invasion and that C4 Labs case, which I just had to have. I finally purchased my second Raspberry Pi. I purchased one when they first came out, and it is still just chugging away as a Nintendo Home Pass for my kids. This new one is the Pi 2 Model B. I was wondering, what are your preferred distros to run on this? I know it depends on what I want to use it for, right? What can I use it for? This could be a whole new show. Maybe maybe review the new Raspberry Pi Zero 2. Keep up the good work and thanks for doing the show. I really enjoy it. Schultzy from Cambridge, Maryland. Are you ready, Patrick?
Almost.
But first, I should mention Noobs is a great starting point.
Yes.
Yeah, Noobs is awesome.
Number 1.
Yeah, it's like a great starting point if you've never messed with a Raspberry Pi before. It's very easy to install and install whatever distro you want out of Noobs Raspbian as well. So starting with that.
All of the images are in there. And I should also comment, like, we will review the Raspberry Pi Zero if we can never get our hands on one.
Yeah.
They are sold out globally. If I stumble into the Barnes & Noble when they actually have the Magpie magazine with the Raspberry Pi Zero on the fronts, we'll do a review.
Or if any of you have an extra one you'd like to send it along, we'll send it back to you.
Yes.
But it'd be awesome to get one on the show. That'd be really cool.
Yes.
Anyway.
There will be soldering, but that's a whole other conversation.
Don't tell them that. I'm a really good solderer.
That's a different soldering thing. Hint, hint. Patreon subscribers. One of my personal favorites, Volumio. I built a Volumio box to use in the warehouse. It is essentially a distro that is all about playing audio back. Really, really good audio. I love it so much. I'm actually figuring out how to put a Raspberry Pi underneath one of my headphone amps.
Oh,
so
cool.
I can basically control the music on my phone, send it to the headphone amp via the Raspberry Pi underneath it.
Okay.
Which is weird, but fun. If you haven't heard about it, RetroPie, it's vintage gaming machine emulation.
RetroPie is so cool.
It is unhinged. Like if you go to the RetroPie project, where's it go? Where's it? Oh, Amiga, Apple II, Atari 800, Atari 2600, Atari ST, Apple Macintosh, C64, Amstrad, CPC, Final Burn, Alpha, Game Boy. It just goes on and on, and including for our friends in Great Britain, the Sinclair ZX Spectrum.
Wow. That is so cool.
It is really cool. blog.petrockblog.com/retropie. Links are in the show notes. If you think we should have picked like Fedora 21 or OpenELEC or OpenMediaVault or, well, one of the other zillion options to run on a Raspberry Pi, do us a favor. Email ask@techthing.com and tell us what we should be running and why. Because we may have never even heard of it because there are so many out there.
Yep, it's true. We'll share it with the audience, so definitely send us a message.
Shannon seemed just a little more than excited about the new Lenovo Yoga 900 when I mentioned it a few weeks ago. I think it's the hinge. So we actually got the review unit in, and Shannon grabbed it and ran off to the wilderness to test it.
I did.
Did it live up to your shiny and happy expectations?
TLDR version, yes. With very few small drawbacks for a relatively small percentage of people, including myself.
Okay.
So this is the new Yoga, it's the Lenovo Yoga 900. It's a 13-inch Ultrabook. Oh, it's so pretty. It is pretty freaking sweet, I won't lie. So it comes in at a starting price of $1,199, and that's a starting price with a 6th generation Intel Core i7-6500 CPU.
Wait, the starting price doesn't include a crippled CPU and 4 gigabytes of RAM?
Nope. It starts with 8 gigs of RAM. It's DDR3, the version that works with the i7, not DDR4, so the 6th gen. But you don't really notice a difference, so that's not a big killer for me or anything. It's Windows 10, of course, go figure. 256 gig solid state drive, so that's a pretty whopping big solid state drive for that starting price. And it's got this really, really nice build quality to it.
You were petting it. I mean, the texture.
I shouldn't do that. I don't own this. I was petting it.
It's out under my name. They're gonna be like, whose saliva is dried on this? So the hinge is obviously like, did the hinge live up to your expectations?
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I mean,
it's
like,
very beautiful, and you can see, like, even when I do this a bunch, it's very, very sturdy. So the big thing you're going to notice about this computer when you get it is like the color, of course, but this beautiful little hinge thing right here. It kind of reminds me of a watch band. So it's got over 800 different parts. It's metal. It looks just like a watch band that you would find on one of Patrick's watches. So the hinge is very, very strong. Doesn't look like it's going to break anytime soon, and it just looks cool. Yeah. It's very sturdy. So when I push this thing back and forth, I don't feel like it's going to break on me. It doesn't like fling back and forth at all. And even when I set it up like this, it stays in the direction that I want it to stay. The hinge doesn't like slowly creep away or anything like that. And I think it helps that they have a nice rubberized casing to it as well on all the sides. So that helps whenever you put it down on any kind of surface as well.
So I noticed you the different ways of standing it.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a couple of different ways that you can use it. Of course, there's the laptop way, which is like this. You can turn it all the way inside out, and that would be your tablet formation. This turns off whenever you're using it in the tablet formation, of course. You can also use it as like that, which I would probably never do.
It always makes me nervous.
That makes me very nervous as well. I don't like putting my keyboard upside down like that. And then there's the tent, which looks like this. So that would probably be useful if you're like wanting to watch Netflix on it.
Yeah.
or
On the
something
plane.
like that. Yeah.
Watching
oh,
movies.
yeah. On the table.
On your
in the plane. That would be
19,000-hour
perfect.
flight to Japan.
Oh my gosh, I would totally do that. Yeah, so that would be great. Outside casing feels kind of like aluminum, might be plastic. It has a nice matte finish, so it doesn't pick up a bunch of fingerprints or anything. It doesn't look ugly. The interior area around the keyboard has a rubberized texture. So when you put your fingers on it and your palm on it, it feels really comforting. It almost reminds me of like memory foam, because you can kind of press down on it a little bit.
It's a rubbery
It's not
feel?
memory foam, but it's a nice rubbery feel, so it's very comfortable, and it doesn't feel like it's going to get dirty and nasty because it's already black. Yay. The multi-touch is also matte. It also has the click keys built into it, so you don't have separate click keys. Very good size, really easy to work with. The keyboard is pretty full. It's like a full-size keyboard. Small shift key on the very end next to the arrow buttons, which
Well,
you
you're
can
also
see right
you
there.
have a massive shift key on your current laptop.
I do. I have a huge shift key. I have a real size shift key. This is not a real size shift key. It's annoying because I always hit the up arrow instead. I don't like that, but I can work with it. I'll figure it out. I like that they included all the function keys at the top, all the numbers and everything, so you have everything you need, and it's really easy to turn on the backlighting. Yes, backlighting is included, one of my favorite things, and it has full backlighting, half backlight, or none. Very easy to turn it on and off.
Good keyboard feel, nice hand.
Yeah, good keyboard feel, really liked it. Travel is great when you're pressing up and down, feels a little bit stiff, and I actually prefer that because I like mechanical keys. Go figure. They have JBL stereo speakers with Dolby DS 1.0. They pump a lot of sound clarity and they pump a lot of bass than my older 2013 Acer Aspire S7, which I use on the show every day. So I actually preferred the sound quality out of these ones as opposed to the Acer that I usually use every day. Pretty nice.
So you're gonna get rid of your home theater speakers and just listen to the yoga?
Yeah, no. Even so, like it's a laptop, so
Right.
you know, use headphones.
It doesn't sound as awful. Well, yeah, okay. It's funny how much better laptops are sounding.
Yeah, it's true. As far as ports go on this guy, you do have a charging port that doubles as USB 2.0 on the side, which is super weird to me, but it's becoming more common.
Right.
So I'm gonna have to get over the weirdness. It charges a little slow over this USB port, but I guess that's kind of to be expected. There's a couple of USB 3.0 ports. There's one on this side, and then if you turn it around, there's one on the other side. So one on each side, and then just that 2.0 port on the other side. Locking button for the screen, which is great. So if you ever turn it into a tablet mode, you don't have to worry about the screen pushing sides on you or anything like that. The power button is located on the side as well, which I would prefer if it was still on the inside, but so many laptop makers put them on the outside and I always click it. I always accidentally bump it, or I'm like moving it around in my backpack and then
put it
I
to sleep.
Oh, it's so irritating. But yeah, it's again a power port or power button on the outside. The headphone and mic are a duo port located on the side as well. And there's also an SD card and USB-C ports as well on this thing, which is kind of cool that they included USB-C. But what's missing here?
An HDMI port?
Yeah, or any kind of display port. There's no VGA, no micro HDMI, no full HDMI. Like, this is very important to me. So I would have to buy an adapter of some sort for an external display use. And who knows how long that'll be until I lose said adapter. That's not necessarily something that I want to carry around as an extra component to be able to use this as a podcaster who essentially has to use an external display constantly, which is a very big negative for me because the additional adapters with the cables and everything, that's just kind of irritating.
It's a big thing. Like I certainly.
It's big for me.
Well, no,
and for you.
But I mean, for the entire industry is kind of moving this because you know, the new Dell XPS 13 has, I'm pretty sure, has USB-C and no HDMI output. Obviously, of course, the MacBook that came out, you know, earlier this year has USB-C and no video output. I think it's because the vast majority of people probably don't use a video output, and/or there's money to be made off of the adapters.
Oh, absolutely. I see some USB-C to HDMI, for example, ones running upwards of $40 for just a teeny tiny cable.
So how is the screen?
The screen was pretty nice. It's a 13.3-inch screen. It's a 3200 by 1800 pixels per inch.
Nice.
And it's QHD plus IPS display, and it's also 300 nits. So it's a nice bright screen. No 4K, obviously, and it is glossy, which might be a problem for some people, but it's also touch, so go figure, it's going to be glossy. Great viewing angles, I had no problems with those, but not so great outdoors on sunny days.
Right.
Kind of to be expected. I've had that same problem with a lot of laptops, so.
Was it the glossiness, or did you want like 400 or 500 nits coming out?
I would like 400 or 500 nits, that'd be nice.
The iBlaster 4000.
Yeah, brightness with a glossy screen is always going to be a slight problem with whenever you're outside on a sunny day, but generally, unless you're chilling outside at a park all day, which good on you for being able to do that, you probably won't have to run into that issue too much. Back to the hardware on it, it's 12.75 inches by 8.86 inches by 0.59, and it's 2.8 pounds. That's a little bit heavier than my Acer Aspire F7, which I've been carrying around, but it's still very lightweight at under 3 pounds. Very, very good. The battery lasts up to 9 hours with average use. I had no problems with that, and I was very happy with the battery. It does come with Wi-Fi 8 all the way up to AC, Bluetooth 4.0, no LTE, which may be an issue for some people. It's not an issue for me because I don't expect that. You can change out the solid state drive, but nothing else. So I don't know if you would like it as much.
Well. I don't know. I'm not really expecting a lot of upgrade opportunities in those laptops these days.
I'm not either. Lenovo did bundle in a couple of different software programs, 6 to be exact, in the Windows 10 operating system, including McAfee, which I hate McAfee, and a photo sharing tool. So luckily, you can always just reformat the machine. It doesn't get very bogged down with clutter at all. It is very quick at its processing power, but I would still revamp it with a new operating system if I were to buy one.
Every new PC comes with McAfee.
Oh yeah.
From Intel.
They must get a great deal.
Well, yeah, you buy the processor, you get some, software from McAfee from Intel.
So, all in all, I have to say it's a really great Ultrabook, especially for that price. I mean, it's $1,200 bucks. Right. That's a really good price, especially for an i7.
We've seen so many Ultrabooks that are cheap, but in relatively unusable configurations.
The build quality is excellent. It's top of the line on this, and honestly, if I didn't need the external display and that wasn't a big worry for me, I would definitely buy one. It's a very, very nice machine, and it's premier. It's a very premier machine.
You like it.
I do. I like it very much. Good job, Lenovo.
You're just angry about the USB-C video thing.
Pretty much, yeah.
Start 2016 out the right way with, say, 24 hours of hacking a new app.
Yes, seriously. You can join Patrick and I the weekend before CES with our friend Loria Petrucci from Geeks Life. All three of us are going to be hosting the AT&T Developer Summit Hackathon, which I'm so freaking excited about, in Las Vegas. At the hackathon, teams have 24 hours to develop an app, and not just in search of like coding glory and being awesome, because they also get to win a ton of money, like up to $25,000.
There's individual prizes for different categories. There's a $24,000 overall prize. There's additional prizes, so it's not just, hey, nice job, dude. You can register to participate for free at geekslife.com/AT&T, and in case it isn't obvious, the event is brought to you by AT&T, and they are sponsoring Shannon and I.
We are so excited. Definitely check it out. We got an email from Kieran who writes in, rumors are flying around recently that Apple is going to be ditching the 3.5mm headphone jack for the next iPhone in favor of using wireless headphones or lightning port adapters. Do you think this is a step forward or a step back? And given that I'm an Apple fanboy and will probably buy the next iPhone, do you have any recommendations for Bluetooth headphones? Best wishes from Kieran.
So first of all, I'm not going to recommend any Bluetooth headphones for your next generation iPhone until we actually know what the output is on it, in case it turns out to be something completely new.
That's a good point.
So, regarding Apple, you mean the Apple that went USB only on the Gumdrop Max in '98 when the whole world thought serial ports were still necessary? Lightning instead of micro USB on the iPhone that... No, there's one jack, one solo Type-C USB connector on the MacBooks that came out earlier this year. Going jackless, dumping the headphone jack, or making you use an adapter with your Lightning port, stranger things have happened. And Apple did buy Beats.
That's true.
Maybe there'll be a premiere version of the phone with the Beats headphones that doesn't require an adapter, and
Who
everybody
knows?
wants to use. Yeah, I mean.
I am a Android girl, so I won't base my opinion here. And we got another message from Carl. He says, greetings, just watched the latest show. Section about travel tech is missing a pro tip that saved my butt once. Have distinct stickers on checked bags and your carry-on. When asked to describe the bag, I was able to say cat skull sticker and show them what it looked like. Also, makes it easy to spot on the belt. And it's not a morbid skull, just in case you were wondering. He also linked us to the picture of his sticker. Thank you, Carl.
Yeah.
That's a really good tip, actually.
Well,
I
you-
usually end up putting a scarf on my checked bag.
Ribbon,
Yeah, a ribbon.
paracord in a distinctive color,
Yep,
duct tape, labeling,
it works.
stickers.
And lastly, Steve has another great tip. He says, just caught TechThing48 and highly second the value of TSA PreCheck. However, thought I'd mention that for anyone who might do any international travel, that global entry is worth considering instead.
What's that?
Global entry is through the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, and it costs $100 instead of $85, but it includes TSA PreCheck. And for $15 more, you get to move through customs more quickly when returning to the US, so just returning from an international flight. Actually also helpful driving back from Canada or Mexico. It is a little more involved to get than just a PreCheck, which it requires an in-person interview, and does cost a bit more, but skipping the long lines at customs after a long flight is a really great thing. Keep up the great work. I enjoy the show. Thanks, from Steve. That's an oversight on my part, and I should definitely look into global entry.
I've never heard of global entry before.
I have. For some weird reason, I look into these things.
Hopefully you didn't get TSA pre-check, given that you're flying to Japan in the
Not
spring.
yet. No, I still need to go down there and do that.
Now there'll be more to do. For everybody that asked if that Dell 7559 gaming laptop would support 32 gigabytes of RAM, I got an answer from Dell. They say, good news, the engineer has checked it functionally on BIOS 1.0, and Pandora 15 SKL can support 32 gigabytes of memory, 16 gigabytes plus 16 gigabytes. So you can pick up a 4-core 8-thread version for $899, be able to fit an M.2 drive and a 2.5-inch hard drive, then drop in 32 gigabytes of RAM, which will only cost you about $300, and have yourself a relatively inexpensive, fairly badass machine with discrete graphics for like video editing or other stuff.
It's freaking awesome.
It is freaking awesome.
Oh man, I really want to upgrade my laptop. So many good ones this year.
And more. More are coming.
I'll wait until after CES. And guys, that's about it for this episode. Remember, once in a while, put down your phone, step away from your laptop, and close the screen and do something analog, like learning how to snowboard.
Done that.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I kind of self-taught myself how to snowboard down a hill next to my mom's house, but I didn't do so well.
You should go to the Sierras and learn to snowboard.
The Sierras. Okay, cool.
You should go to Homewood. It's a little tiny, small place. Or there's a really tiny, small ski resort up in the middle of Yosemite. Which would be either one of those. I love teaching people how to like ski or snowboard at little, small mom and pop resorts.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
definitely.
I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Shannon Morse.
And big thanks to everybody that supported the show this year on Patreon. And we will see you next week on TechThing.
Bye.
He was 6 at the time.
Cool.
He's like 30 now.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Or 36.
Is he one of those expert snowboarders?
He grew.
That's how I snowboard.
He was skiing at like 2.5 or 3 and snowboarding by like 5 or 6.
I've never skied either.
They lived in a ski town in Colorado.
Yeah, my family never took trips to like big ski resorts or anything, or
Yeah, they did not.
snowboard resorts or whatever. So
I really started when I skied once when I was 12 on a school trip.
cool.
And then started, I got really serious about it in college.
That's
I
awesome.
worked at my aunt worked at a children's ski school, so I taught at the ski school in the winter breaks for a couple, 3 years.
Oh, that was adorable. That was really cute.
You can't see it now, but Kirby and Darren are having a cat owner loving moment.
It was a moment.
Completely appropriate too.
It was so cute.
Kirby's like,
Darren's like on the floor.
oh.
It's a kitty. This is Curbs. I don't know if she's been on the show yet.
I think she has.
welcome to
We've
the
certainly
Tech
heard
Things
her on the
Edge.
show at least once.
Oh yeah, that's true. This is Kirby. She's like 15, and she's been with us for a very long time, and she's our mascot. Aren't you, Kirby?
I feed Kirby.
Oh my gosh, look at her colors. She matches. Only I would notice that.
And I want to thank each and every one of you, ladies and
dressed
gentlemen, for
appropriately.
supporting Tech Things.